that's kind of very alarming to me. Why the hell would Future's blood brother, who kind of like runs the FBG label, why would he have a bunch of like? Do people keep for their own personal use? No, right? I don't know if it's about like that's what drugs, but no, right? So that kind of seems like they're doing some drug dealing, right? 21 kilos, kilos. Wow.
The whole city froze when word got out that the feds had just raided Future's house after indicting his brother. And the way the story spread had everyone glued to their phones like it was the season finale of a crime show. Nobody expected this kind of smoke to hit one of hip-hop's biggest stars, and especially not like this, with agents pulling up in unmarked trucks, blocking the street, and neighbors peeking through blinds trying to figure out what was going down. What makes it even wilder is how sudden it all felt. One minute everything was normal, and the next minute people were texting, "Did you see what's happening at Future's crib?" Like they couldn't believe their own eyes. Even before the official reports came out, folks online were already creating their own theories. Screenshots were flying everywhere, and it felt like the entire internet turned into detectives overnight. See, the indictment of Future's brother wasn't some small rumor floating around. This was a serious federal situation, and once the paperwork hit the system, it was like a match got dropped in gasoline. The streets started whispering about connections, old stories resurfaced, and people who claimed they never heard a thing suddenly remembered every so-called warning sign from years back. And because it involved someone tied to a superstar like Future, the feds weren't going to move lightly. They came with full force, like they wanted everyone to know they meant business. Witnesses said the agents didn't even hesitate. They hopped out with tactical gear, moved like they rehearsed it, and made it clear that whatever was happening wasn't just some regular check-in or friendly visit. The craziest part is how fast the news channels picked it up, like they were waiting for something involving Future to fall into their laps. Within minutes, cameras were outside his gated neighborhood, helicopters were circling the area, and reporters were speaking in that dramatic voice they use when they want viewers locked in. And while they kept repeating Future himself is not charged at this time, you could see they were hungry for the story to be messier. That's how it goes when a celebrity's name gets tied to a federal move. Even if the person ain't the target, the spotlight goes straight to them because drama sells, and Future is a name that gets clicks instantly. But what really shook people was the idea of the feds stepping into a rapper's space like this after going after his brother first, like they already had every angle mapped out. Some insiders said the investigation had been going on quietly for months, maybe even years, and the raid was just the final move in a long chess game. If that's true, then it means the feds weren't reacting. They were executing a plan piece by piece, waiting for the perfect moment to hit both the indictment and the raid at the same time. And that's what had fans panicking online, because anytime the feds work in silence, it usually means they're sitting on way more information than anyone realizes. As soon as the raid footage started circulating, people began zooming in on every detail. What kind of vehicles were there? What rooms the agents entered? Even how long the search lasted. Some were convinced they were looking for documents. Others said electronics, and a few claimed they saw boxes being carried out, though nobody could confirm what was inside. That mystery alone kept social media on fire, because when you mix federal action with the superstar's home, folks automatically assume the situation is 10 times deeper than what's on the surface. And once you add Future's name to the headline, every blog and gossip page wants front row seats to the chaos. Future's fans were stressing, dropping comments like, "Man, not Pluto, tell me this ain't real," while others were trying to play detective, saying things like, "This gotta be about his brother, not him. They always drag families into this." Whether they were defending him or panicking, everyone was talking, and the noise only got louder when people remembered how private Future normally is. He rarely lets the world see what's going on in his home life, so seeing the feds roll through his front gates was shocking to his supporters, almost unreal, like it didn't fit the image they had of a superstar living untouched by the chaos regular people face. Meanwhile, people close to the industry claimed the raid didn't only shake Future, it shook the entire Atlanta rap scene. See, Future isn't just a rapper, he's a whole infrastructure, a boss figure whose success stretches across studios, labels, producers, and upcoming artists trying to get a chance. When something this serious hits someone at his level, everyone in his orbit pauses, trying to make sure none of the waves splash onto them. Even those who weren't involved in anything suspicious started double-checking their circles, because anytime the feds drop an indictment involving someone connected to the industry, people start wondering, who else are they looking at? It's human nature. Fear spreads fast when badges and federal seals get involved. Some folks online were already jumping to conclusions, acting like the raid meant Future was automatically guilty of something, even though his name wasn't even listed on the paperwork. That's how wild the internet gets. People want a story so bad that they fill in the blanks with whatever sounds the most dramatic, even if it's not based on facts. But others push back hard, saying Future was being dragged into a situation he had no control over, just because his brother's choices caught up to him. And that sparked a whole new wave of arguments. Messy debates, long comment threads, and endless back and forth about whether a celebrity should be judged by the actions of their family. But one thing was clear, the raid wasn't just random, and it wasn't a misunderstanding either. It was deliberate, organized, and executed with precision. And when something like that happens around someone of Future's status, you know the story is far from over. This was just the spark, the beginning of something much bigger brewing behind closed doors, and everyone could feel it. And now the whole world is waiting for the next move, wondering what the feds found, what comes next, and how deep this situation might go. When the dust started settling after the raid, the energy around Future's name didn't calm down. It got even louder, like people sensed there was another layer to this story waiting to unfold. Reporters kept popping up outside the neighborhood, drones were buzzing over the property like flies, and every gossip platform was trying to squeeze out a source close to the situation, even if that source was just somebody's cousin who knew somebody's neighbor. The frenzy around it was unreal because everyone wanted to be the first to drop details, even if the details weren't fully confirmed. And with Future staying silent, refusing to make any official statement, the silence only made the whole thing feel more intense, like he was choosing to let the world speculate while he handled things behind the scenes. But behind that silence, people in the industry claimed Future was furious, not because of the raid itself, but because of the way his family was being dragged into something bigger than what the public understood. Future has always been protective of his circle, especially when things get messy, and the idea of federal agents storming his home just because his brother got indicted, that didn't sit right with him at all. According to folks who supposedly spoke to his team, Future felt like the raid was unnecessary, almost like it was done for shock value to make headlines instead of actually finding something important. And a lot of fans agreed, saying it felt like a show, a big dramatic move meant to embarrass rather than uncover anything meaningful. Once the indictment papers leaked online, people started digging into Future's brother's background like they were preparing a documentary, even though most of them didn't know the man personally at all. Every old story, every rumor, every random post from years back suddenly got recycled like it was breaking news. And that's when the conversation took another turn. People began arguing about whether the feds were connecting dots that didn't actually connect, just because of the fame tied to the family. Some blogs even pushed narratives saying the feds might be hoping the heat on Future would pressure his brother into cooperating, but nobody could prove if that was true or just another social media guest thrown into the mix. Meanwhile, Future's mansion became the new tourist attraction of the week. Folks kept driving by trying to snap pictures of federal vehicles even though the agents were long gone. People were posting TikToks from across the street doing whole breakdowns like they were news anchors, saying things like, "This is where they walked in," and "This is the exact window they flashed lights into," even though they had no real info. The clout chasing was crazy, but that's the era we're in. Anything with a superstar's name becomes instant content, no matter how serious or sensitive the situation is. And while the internet was doing what it does best, creating theories from thin air, people close to Future said he went into lockdown mode mentally, not hiding, not running, not panicking, just getting extremely calculated. Future has always been a chess player when it comes to protecting his brand, and when something threatens that brand, he doesn't react emotionally, he strategizes. Folks claimed he immediately brought in a legal team way bigger than the public even realized, not because he was guilty of anything, but because he refused to let the situation snowball into something out of his control. And honestly, that's what anyone in his position would do. When the feds show your house on the evening news, the smartest move is to get ahead of the narrative before it grows extra legs. The part that shocked a lot of people was how the music industry responded. Some rappers sent him private love and support, but others stayed quiet, and that silence did not go unnoticed. In the music world, silence sometimes speaks louder than words. If people think a situation might get messy, they don't want their name floating anywhere near it. And that created a whole new wave of drama online, with fans asking why certain artists weren't speaking up if they claimed to be brothers to Future. Of course, Future didn't comment on those conversations, but the fans were loud enough for everybody else to hear, stirring up tension that wasn't even part of the original story. But the biggest conversation online came when people started debating whether the feds would have raided the home of anyone who wasn't famous, or if Future's status made him a target just to make the case look bigger. Fans argued that the raid wasn't about evidence. It was about optics, about making the case appear more dramatic to the public. And honestly, when you look at how fast the headlines exploded, how quickly national outlets jumped on it, and how every platform used Future's picture instead of his brother's, it's easy to see why people felt that way. It was almost like they wanted Future to be part of the storyline, even though he wasn't charged with anything. As the days went on, more details from the indictment slowly trickled out, and that only fueled the conversation more. People wondered if the feds had plans to circle back for more questioning, or if this was just a one-time raid that the media turned into a spectacle. Others speculated whether Future would address it on an upcoming project, because anytime rappers go through something major, fans expect them to turn pain into bars. But knowing Future, he might stay quiet forever. He's never been the type to publicly break down real-life stress unless it's through lyrics, and even then he only gives just enough to keep people guessing. The situation also made some fans look back on old interviews where Future talked about family loyalty and keeping certain things private. Suddenly, those clips resurfaced all over TikTok and Instagram as examples of hidden meanings, even though he wasn't talking about anything connected to this case. But that's what happens when the public gets obsessed with a story. They start connecting dots that were never meant to be connected, and every old quote becomes a possible clue. Still, even with all the noise, one thing stood out above everything. Future himself wasn't charged. His career wasn't on pause. His music wasn't stopped. But the raid changed how people look at the situation surrounding him. It reminded everyone that fame doesn't shield you from the real world, and sometimes the real world can slide right into your mansion with federal jackets and search warrants. And until the feds release more information or Future decides to speak publicly, the world is stuck in suspense, waiting to see if this was just a dramatic one-time raid or the beginning of something much bigger.